Hello and welcome to Canadian Humour. This week I'm returning to Stories from the Vinyl Cafe by Stuart McLean. And as I was about to pick a story, I actually found this. It's a map of one of our local hospitals, and it's an appointment sheet for someone who is going for a stress test. Yes, I found this book at my local thrift store, and I'm guessing the person who donated it found it helpful during their appointment. Today I'm reading Breakfast, Lunch, Dinner. This is another Dave and Morley story. So if you've listened to my earlier story, The Jockstrap, you know these two get up to some everyday hilarious adventures. So let's find out what they're up to this time. On Saturday morning at 5:45, Dave gasped and sat up with a start. He could feel his heart thumping against his chest. My God, he thought, I'm having a heart attack. Morley, he said to his wife, trying to remember what you were supposed to do when the big one hit. Then he heard the voice. There was someone else in the bedroom with them. He didn't recognize the voice. Had he passed out? Was it the ambulance driver? Dave felt like he was swimming underwater, struggling to get to the surface, struggling to assemble himself, pull himself together, to wake up. He hadn't passed out. They were being robbed. What a time to have a heart attack. Morley, he said again. He was still asleep. At some level he understood this, but his heart was still racing. The voice was still there. It was saying something about an all-day sale at a car dealership. Why would a burglar be telling him this? Crap, Dave. Morley poked her husband in the back. The radio, Dave. David moved the clock radio off his bedside table and onto the bureau. He had moved it because of something he had read about electromagnetic emissions and brain tumors. I don't know, he said when Morley asked. Better to be safe than sorry, I guess. Morley hadn't said anything, but he knew she didn't approve. He stumbled to the bureau and, dopey with sleep, managed to turn the volume up rather than off. Morley swore again and disappeared under a pillow. Dave slapped frantically at the radio and the alarm began barking. It was his turn to swear. He reached down and pulled the plug out of the wall. There, he said. It was still dark. Dave was standing in the middle of the room, holding the plug as if he'd just landed the first fish of the year. He knew he wasn't about to fall back to sleep. Crap, he said again, then went downstairs to fetch the paper. On Sunday, Dave and Morley slept in. Monday, too. Dave forgot he'd unplugged the alarm. He didn't wake up until Sam tried to climb into bed with him. It was 8:05. Crap, he said for the third time since Saturday. By the time he got downstairs, everything was moving too fast for anyone's good. Sam was pouring his own cereal, getting most of it into the bowl. Morley was peeling a carrot into the sink, too focused to notice Sam's mess, holding the carrot out like she was doing a cooking demonstration. Whose celery? She asked. Whose carrots? Why could she never remember this? Me, said Stephanie, her mouth full of toast. Me what? Said Morley. Me carrots or me celery? It was 8:40. Both kids should have left for school. You should eat something, said Dave to his wife as he ducked around Sam on his way to the sink, knowing even as the words left his mouth that this wasn't helpful. What he wanted to say was, I feel guilty eating when you're running around. What his wife heard was, it's your fault we're late. I need a prescription slip, said Sam as his father tied his shoes. We're going on a field trip to Humpty Dumpty. You're going where? Said Dave incredulously. He needs a note, said Morley from the kitchen. To go to a potato chip factory? This is a school trip? You're going to a potato chip factory? I need a note or I can't go. Where's the letter from school? I want to see this, said Dave. I don't know. I think it's in my bag. He lost it, said Morley from the kitchen. I need a note or I can't go, said Sam. You're telling us now? Said Dave. I'll write the note, said Morley, throwing down the 2 lunch bags, glowering. You drive. 40 minutes later, late himself, Dave is standing in front of the record store, patting his pockets. In the rush to get the kids to school, he's left the keys to the store at home. It was 10:30 before he opens. Tuesday, Sam can't find his bike lock. He wants to use Stephanie's. Dave lurches into the yard, trying to get there before they start hitting each other. Stephanie won't let me use her lock, says the boy. He's lost his lock. That's his fault, says his sister. Reaching for some cartons that are piled along the back wall of the garage, looking for an old lock that he's not even sure exists, Dave stumbles over the lawnmower and whacks his shin on something sharp. The pain crashes up his leg and settles behind his eyes. He moans out loud. The dog looks up at him, her tail wagging. Get out of here, he snarls. She has the good sense to tuck her tail down and disappear. Aw, puppy. Why is his garage such a mess? Even as he stands there, he knows with certainty that no matter how much time he spent cleaning or ordering or hanging things on the wall, it would always return to this. I'm laughing because that's so our garage. Let me know in the comments down below. Does that happen to you? You get it all just immaculate, organized, and it takes what, 2-3 weeks before you can't even tell? His garage would always be a mess. If I could only find the lock, he thinks, it wouldn't bother me so much. At noon, Morty Zuckerman phones the store and invites Dave and Morley to dinner on Friday night. The invitation catches Dave off guard. They hardly know the Zuckermans. We'd love to come, he says, thinking as he hears himself say it. Why did I do that? It was against family rules. He was supposed to check. I should have checked, he thinks to himself as he hangs up. Again, let me know. Do you have those family rules that you need to check before you agree to going out on social outings together? At supper, Stephanie says she needs $15. I can't find Elaine's tape. I have to buy her a new one. Maybe, says Dave, you should use your own money. I don't want to use my money. Why not? I don't want to waste my money on a tape for Elaine. And this is why we have fur children, not human children. Lying in bed that night, Dave puts his book down and flips off the lamp on his bedside table. He tucks his arm under his head. What are we doing wrong? He asks his wife. Morley, who's turned her light off only moments before, doesn't answer. She's already asleep. Oh. See, I would be Dave up stewing. My hubby conks out once his head hits the pillow. It's a skill I've never learned. On Thursday, Dave gets a postcard from a regular customer, a young boy who until recently worked at the university radio station. He shot for records at Dave's store. He left his job in the city to go to Alberta. I'm going out west, he said. The card's a picture of a Mountie and 3 native chiefs standing stiffly in front of a teepee. The Mountie is the only one smiling. Finally made it, reads the message printed in red ink. Have a job waiting in Jasper at a ski lodge. Not sure doing what. The sky is big out here. Have you heard Robbie Robertson's new album? Right. It is the return address squeezed into the corner by the stamp that Dave reads twice. General Delivery, Jasper, Alberta. Dave had gone out west after his first year of university, sat up for 2 nights on the train, worked for 2 summers at the Jasper Park Lodge. Early one summer morning, walking between the cabins on his way to the dining room, where he worked as a waiter, Dave walked right by Colonel Harlan Sanders. "Good morning, Colonel," said Dave, not believing his eyes. "Good morning, son," said the colonel. He looked exactly the way he did in the television ads, walking stick and all. It seemed too long since Dave had moved with the sense of anticipation that surrounds you when you're on the road and you know that there's a post office ahead of you where someone might have sent you a letter or a card. No wonder the skies look big. At lunch, Dave buys the cheesiest card he can of the city skyline and throws it in a mailbox on the way home. On it he's written, "There used to be a health food store with a pool table on the main street of Jasper. Is it still there? I used to go there and shoot pool and drink licorice tea. Sometimes traveling alone is scary. Everything will be all right. Have fun." That night, Dave dreams of a post office in the prairies. It's surrounded by wheat. In the dream, Dave's standing in front of a wicket, which has bars on it. It makes him think of a jail. It's unclear who's behind the bars, Dave or the man who's handing him the pack of letters. The letters are tied together with string. There's a woman waiting outside with a child in a stroller. The woman has a nice smile. Dave's holding out one of the letters. "It's my union card," he says to the woman. "I can get a job now." He feels proud. The woman says, "What about the effing garage? When are you going to clean the garage?" Morley phoned at noon and read to Dave from the Globe and Mail. An American tourist had been charged with assault in connection with the spanking of his 5-year-old daughter in a London, Ontario restaurant parking lot. The police said the man and his family had stopped for lunch when the girl had closed the car door on her sister's fingers. There were witnesses who said they saw the father pull down the girl's underwear, place her on the trunk of the car, and spank her with the palm of his hand. The police took the girl to hospital after the incident. A doctor didn't find any injuries. "The incident," said Dave. "Do they really call it the incident?" "Gotta go," said Morley. Once, like the man in the newspaper, Dave had spanked both his children while they were on summer vacation. They were pulling out of New York City, heading home on a hot August morning with a 500-mile drive in front of them. There was no air conditioning in the car, and though they'd only been on the road for half an hour, the kids were already acting up in the back seat. Somebody was going to hit somebody. "I'd better nip this in the bud," Dave thought. He drove off the New York State Freeway, found himself circling the exit ramp, and pulling into a housing development. It was early on a Sunday morning. There was a man mowing his lawn with a hand mower. Dave parked as far from the man as he could. He got out of the car and yanked the back door open. He reached in and pulled Stephanie out of the car and whacked her twice. Then he threw her back in and did the same to Sam. There was a steamy silence for the next 40 minutes, and all Dave could think about was as they smoked down the interstate was the cheerful wave from the man with the lawnmower as they peeled out of the neighborhood. What did it mean? Was it a wave of solidarity? Did cars of crazed families pull onto that street every day? Half an hour later, it occurred to Dave that the man might have taken his license plate number, might have reported him to the authorities. Maybe the wave was a warning. Maybe the police were waiting for him at the border. Wouldn't that make this a vacation to remember? About an hour later, Sam said, "You shouldn't have done that." Dave had the grace to say, "You're right." "Sam's going to sleep over at Ben's tomorrow night," said Morley on Thursday. "Let's have a quiet night," said Dave. "Let's get a movie. I'll get some wine. We'll stay home. We'll order dinner." Friday night at 8:15, Morley and Dave are upstairs in the den, snuggled on the couch. "I told Stephanie to be home at 11, said Morley. Morley's reading the paper. Dave peers at his wife over his book. He thinks to himself, "She looks so beautiful. I'm so lucky to be here on this couch beside her. Sometimes the world is a perfect place." That's when he remembers the invitation to the Zuckermans. For a full, frozen, horrible minute, he doesn't say anything. It would be better for everyone, he thinks, if Morley doesn't know about this. He considers slipping down to the laundry room where there's a phone he can use without being heard. He'd call the Zuckermans and say, what? That one of the kids was sick. No, too late for that. That one of the kids was dead, and they couldn't come. Or the babysitter was dead. No, there'd been an accident. He was phoning from the hospital. "We are," says Dave, achieving a calmness he did not feel, "supposed to be at the Zuckermans eating dinner." Morley doesn't say anything. "Morty phoned on Tuesday. He asked us to dinner tonight at 7 o'clock. "I didn't know this," says Morley. Ominously, she's speaking even slower than Dave. "You didn't tell me this." Dave's now worried more about himself than the Zuckermans. "We were supposed to be there at 7, he says, glancing at his watch. "It's not on the calendar, Dave. You didn't write it on the calendar." Morley sounds like Hal, the computer in the movie 2001. "What are you going to do about it?" she asks. Not we. Not what are we going to do. The Zuckermans live on Brock Avenue. Their house is less than a 5-minute walk from Dave's house. "I'll go over there," he says. "Look in the window. Maybe it's like a buffet. Maybe there are lots of people there. Maybe they haven't missed us." "That's stupid, Dave. Phone them." "What?" "Phone them." "I can't phone them. If it's a buffet, I don't have to phone them. A buffet's like a cocktail party. It doesn't matter when you arrive. It'll be okay. I'll be right back." Dave is pleading. "I'll be right back," he says. "Don't move." When he gets there, Dave looks at the Zuckerman's house from the far side of the street. The drapes are pulled. Now what, he thinks. But he knows now what. He has to get closer. He makes a tack by the house and then says, "Now or never." Glides over the front lawn like a spy, thinking, "They won't see me in the dark, as long as I don't make a noise, as long as they don't have a dog, as long as a neighbor doesn't call the police." Jesus, how would he explain that? If the police arrived and Morty and Irene came outside and saw him being taken away, how could he explain skulking around their property when he was supposed to be inside eating? They'd think he was crazy. The windows at the side of the house are over Dave's head. There's a garbage can by the walk. Dave lugs it over to the window and then, holding on to the windowsill, pulls himself up as if he's doing a chin-up. His head fills the window like a rising moon. He comes up about a foot away from Morty, who's sitting by the window reading the paper. Irene's on the other side of the room. She's looking straight at him. Dave's sure she can see him, ducks down expecting a scream, leaves the garbage can where it is, runs for the street, and doesn't stop running until he's around the block. Surely his father never did things like this. When is he going to grow up? He meets Morley on the way home. "We can't go there," he says. "They're just sitting there. They look like they've eaten." "You don't have to come," says Morley, "but I'm going." Dave follows his wife down the street. He's a step behind her. "Listen," he says frantically. "I have an idea. Why don't we go tomorrow night instead? We show up at 7 o'clock. That would cover it. They'll know we had it wrong, but they won't know for sure. There'll be doubt. They'll at least have to wonder if Morty made a mistake. Morley kept walking. Or we don't go at all, and we never mention it. Pretend it never happened. Listen, we can invite them over to our house in like 3 weeks with other people to show that we like them. Morley keeps walking. Or phone them. Let's go back home and phone them, and you can say I've had a heart attack. For God's sake, Morley, it's too late to go. Morley stops and turns and repeats the only thing she has said since her husband came back. You don't have to come if you don't want to, but I'm going. What could he say to that? What else could he do but keep walking, following his wife like a boy on a shopping trip with his mother? Only moments ago he was totally in love with her. Now, as he struggles to keep up, he hears himself silently invoking the Lord to bring down a bolt of lightning and strike her dead at his feet so he won't have to keep going. Won't have to stand on his neighbor's porch beside her. Won't have to live through the rest of the night. In fact, he thinks, looking up, if a bolt of lightning did come down, he could phone the Zuckermans from the hospital and say he was sorry they hadn't made it to dinner, but on the way over, Morley had been hit by lightning and he was phoning from the hospital. When they get there, when they're standing on the porch and Morley's hand is moving towards the doorbell, Dave says, I'm sorry. This is my fault. I'm sorry. Yes, she says, this is your fault. Then she rings the bell. What are we going to say? Asked Dave. I phoned already, she says. I phoned while you were gone. Irene Zuckerman is smiling when she opens the door. So numerous adventures with Dave, Morley, and their kids, Sam and Stephanie. Hope you enjoyed the various silly stories that this family gets into. There'll be more to come in the future weeks. Hope you have a good one, and remember, laughter really is the best medicine.